Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and today I want to show you what is maybe one of the best deals in terms of knives for a survival kit, for bushcrafting if that's what you do, but in general as a survival knife in a very tight budget. These are fantastic. These Stanley knives, I just got these and they're very, very good. They're very similar to your Moras, your Hultafords. I think I paid like $5 or $6 for each of these. And man, they are a great knife. It's very similar to the Hultafords and Moras. I would even say even better finish. Look at how squared out that spine is. This thing throws sparks like you wouldn't believe. Plastic handle, of course, but covered with this rubberized material, which gives it a very nice retention. Very nicely shaped handle as well there for good retention. Anything you're doing a little bit more forceful. I know the bushcraft crowd is probably going to be removing this sort of thing here because what reasons. Anyway, I think this makes a lot more sense though, especially the way I view survival and preparedness. I'm less bushcrafty, more urban self-defense kind of thing, me being more of a concern than having to survive in the wild for an extended period of time. I think that's a lot more realistic. So I always look at things in terms of how good of a weapon is this if it ever comes down to that. That's one of the reasons why I like the Glock knife. The Glock knife, for the money, it's a great survival knife in general. And being a bayonet, it's definitely a good bladed weapon in its own. This would not be all that, but yeah, and it's shorter, but hey, still very decent shape, still very decent blade, super sharp, sharper even than most of the Glocks I have. This thing is crazy sharp. It just goes through paper. I mean, I could touch it up a little bit, but man, I'm not going to be complaining because of this. This is very nicely sharpened. Nice Scandi grind, typical Puko blade, modernized, right? But I like that you have this retention. What I mean is, if it ever comes down to it, I mean, for knives, usually you just want a cutting tool, right? That's supposedly what you're going to be using it. So for cutting, this is going to be doing more than nicely enough. Poking, a little bit of prying to an extent. It's not going to be a big knife, but a little bit of prying, sure. And if you have to use this, you don't have anything else, and you have to use something like this for self-defense, you would be rather well prepared with this. I mean, of course, a firearm is always going to be better, but if I have this with me, and this is what I need to defend myself, I wouldn't be the guy that goes against this blade. This blade with enough intention is going to be doing a big mess. It's going to be stabbing like crazy. It's going to be slicing like butter, anything that's flesh. And with this handle, you're going to be having good amount of retention there. And with this, as this is, just like you see it like this, you could just throw it in your pants, carry it there, maybe inside the waistband even, with a little bit of imagination if you get to it. You're going to be having something that can do a lot of damage. And you know what? If you're carrying this on the street, someone finds you, yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of, home repairs, or just, some random thing. I'm just going to a hardware store. This is a Stanley knife. It's just that more utilitarian thing. Of course, keep in mind your local laws and all. If you're in the middle of London, Stanley will not cut it as an excuse. They have very strict laws about this sort of thing, no matter what the knife says. So fixed blade, carrying a fixed blade lands you in jail in UK. So yeah, that would not be the case. But in most other places, there is a bit of leniency there, and the officer has a bit of flexibility of, well, okay, this guy looks like a normal dude going out on his day. Now, if you're carrying a Glock knife, that's a little bit more militaristic, bayonet-like, and maybe looks a little bit less innocent than your Stanley, hardware store type of knife. And yet it does pretty much most of the things you would want a knife to do. I mean, I don't want to be mean about anything, but I've seen knives that are very much kind of like this same thing going for $300 simply because it's a certain brand or a certain name or a certain celebrity associated to it. I mean, I know for a fact how much it costs to make knives, and I get it, but for example, it's not the same thing to make this knife with this amount of steel and doing something like this with this amount of steel. I mean, look at the amount, how many knives you could get away. So size does matter, and it does influence cost. So I'm not complaining when I see a bigger knife with good steel going for a certain amount of money. Now, I've also seen knives that are not all that different from this. Maybe with a nice wooden handle at most, going for 300 bucks. $5, I'm more than happy with several of these around the house or in different kits. So guys, that's the tip. Keep in mind that if I don't find this exact same one, I'll also throw the links for Halter Forge. Baco is also very similar to this one, and of course Mora is always a good bet. I particularly like this one from Mora, the longer version of their knife. This is a very decent, this is actually a great knife for most kits as well. Anyway, see you on the next video, folks. Remember, tomorrow we're going to be going live 3 p.m. Eastern time. See you on the next video. Take care.